Hey guys, it's Caroline, and I want to welcome you to Watch What's Cooking, a channel where we talk some of our favorite recipes with some of our favorite people. Food is love, and we love you for checking us out. Hey guys, today we toast to risotto.
Why not? Risotto, my favorite thing in the world. Let's drink.
All right, listen. Sometimes in life you gotta know when you're beat. Right now, I know I'm beat. Because as you all know, Jamie has traveled the world and he's come across so many people. His stories are crazy. You could sit for hours and listen to him with his stories. But here's the thing. In his travels, he's learned really great secrets and a lot of fun ideas. This is something that I think we all can agree on. Making risotto is, at times, in our minds, challenging, right? We gotta measure everything out. It's gotta be perfect because in our brain, rice is hard. Rice is hard. Don't even start with me.
You know, it's
Before
funny.
it's even out of the bag, it's hard.
Yeah,
right?
Most people have problems with rice.
Rice is a big deal because
Rice
it
is
gets
easy.
sticky, it gets this. But now he comes along and says to me, Caroline, I got a way to make rice. Get ready with my ears.
Well, that's how I was trained.
Well, now I think he's lying to me. Because
No.
who cooks
I don't lie about rice.
with their ears? So now I say, prove it to me, because I don't trust him.
You see how this is starting out?
But you see who makes rice with their ears? This guy makes rice with his ears. So he is going to teach all of us, all of you, the best way to make rice, because he claims. What is your claim about this? That you never, ever measured anything again.
No, I mean, good cooking really is when you allow yourself to let your freak flag fly in the kitchen. And that's what, in a restaurant, in a professional restaurant, you really don't have time to measure. So risotto is one of those dishes that you can really throw yourself into. And I feel like if you really understand the method behind risotto, it becomes fun. And that's the thing. We're going to take the stigma out of it being difficult and time consuming. Risotto is the kind of dish that you want to impress your friends with, but you get to throw yourself in it.
And the best part is you get to be a little bit of a show off. Like what? What? Measuring cups? Sorry, no, don't need it. So this is really fun. I'm super excited about it. And where did you learn this?
So I was lucky enough to graduate from the Culinary Institute, as you know, and I was one of the chefs awarded to go to Italy. So 14 chefs and I went to Italy for an extended period of time, and this is a recipe that I learned the basics from a restaurant in Imola, Bologna, where they do the Formula One races.
That's
And
all. Don't worry about it.
yeah, and it's a great chef,
Nothing.
Valentino Marcatelli.
Oh, nothing.
San Domenico restaurant in Imola, Bologna.
Oh,
Great little
nothing.
restaurant.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
just a little basic place. Michelin star restaurant. Shall we start?
Go. What do we have?
Okay, so we're gonna do a very basic risotto today. Now, that's another thing, Caroline, that is really exciting about making risotto. Risotto can be made with leftovers. Risotto can be made with just about anything. If you wanna do a basic risotto like we're gonna do today, because our goal is to make something with it.
We don't like to waste. And that's the thing that we want to, the biggest thing that we want to get across to you guys. There is so many ways to use your food fresh 2 days later.
Yeah, for sure.
All right? There's so many ways to simply change, but with one ingredient, take a simple recipe and make it crazy. And that's our hope, along with these other things. The other things we're going to be making is just like
We're going to
make
show
it
you.
shine.
We're going to show you the
Make it
method,
shine.
and we're also going to show you the madness. So this risotto dish can easily turn into tomorrow's breakfast with
Right.
poached egg over the top, and you make a beautiful like risotto cake. Or we can make arancini with it later.
Moral of the story: don't be scared.
Don't be afraid.
be
So what we're
afraid.
going to do is we're going to teach you guys how to make risotto like I learned in Italy, on the fly, using ingredients that everybody pretty much has in their kitchen. I'm going to keep it very basic today, and all we have here is a little bit of lemon, some Parmigiano Reggiano, some really great arborio rice, which you can use two types, arborio or canaroli. Both work really, really well.
Easily found in your local market,
Yep,
so don't
or
be afraid
even,
of that.
and this recipe
Right.
can even be adapted to farro as well, which is another grain that you can use for risotto. So, with that said, we're going to keep it very basic. A little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano. We've got some sun-dried tomatoes, some roasted garlic, just basic, but it's going to be basically delicious. So first off, you have to know when you're making risotto, guys, that you always have to use a hot stock. So that's the main thing when you're getting risotto together and your ingredients together. Always have a hot pot of stock going and some kitchen wine.
Right.
Which today we're using
It's Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio.
Boom.
Boom.
But here's the thing. A lot of people assume that you have to only make rice with water. I never make rice with water. It's always with a stock. So that's something I think we need to make clear as well, because the assumption is, oh, rice, water. So do it, do it.
Again, so Caroline talked about earlier about sound, right? So I really want to take you on this journey with me through the recipe, and I want you to think about, it sounds a little crazy, putting yourself into the pot. So as you know with me, cooking is emotional. Even the way you spin the pot matters. So today we're going to talk about sound. So we have a beautiful seasoned cast iron skillet.
It's got a nice heat on it.
By the way, kudos to your skillet, Caroline. This is a...
Care and love going to that skillet.
What do you hear?
Sizzle.
Right? So another thing when you're making risotto, if you want to make it a little bit more or less oniony, there's really, as long as you have onion in your base, you're good. So first thing you hear are the sizzle of that onion. Is it too hot? Is it burning? No, it's just sizzling. So we're going to take you through the process.
I was just going to say, would people, don't be afraid of the, it's already getting translucent, it's already getting a little caramelized brown. Don't be afraid of that. It's not burning, it's working.
The goal is that in order to make the right risotto, you have to toast the rice. What happens with each one of these grains when you toast it is that just like a piece of toast, there's little tiny, really, really small holes in each grain. Toasting process opens up the grain. So when you're making risotto, how I was taught, 1 handful of raw rice, 1 serving.
One person.
One person.
One handful, 1 serving. 5 handful, 5 people.
So we got 1 serving, 2 servings, 3 servings, 4 servings, 5 servings, 6 servings for our friends, and
lucky 7.
Lucky number 7,
yep.
And then 8 because we're going to make arancini.
Okay.
All right, so we got 8 handfuls. Guys, when it comes to recipes, we were taught to cook from the can. Remember when Grandma, we would ask our grandmother for recipes, and she'd say, half a can.
Half a can. I don't know. Get your handful. And that's the way to be. Caroline, just put a handful. I don't know, half a can. So if you got a can, you're good.
So this is a really nice seasoned cast iron skillet, and right now we're going through the toasting process. So remember that we have to toast these grains but not burn the onions. So basically I'm going to crank up the heat a little bit in order for me to get that pot and pan a little bit hotter, but you always have to move the grains. Spin the grains and feel the weight of the rice. Go ahead. Do you feel that weight?
Yes.
The weight behind the spoon.
We got to keep it moving though.
Okay, yeah,
right?
keep it moving, but I'm going to take you through the process. Right now, you feel the weight.
Right.
You'll know when the rice is done when it gets super light. So this is going to take a little bit of time. Risotto, perfect risotto by the way, takes 18 minutes from start to finish. So in 18 minutes, we're going to have a great risotto. You're not going to have a great risotto if you don't have a hot stock, which we do have. So
you're adding the stock as needed while you.
Remember,
while you're starting, you're just adding as needed.
Right now, it will be as needed, but right now we're going to go through the process of toasting the rice.
Right.
So I'm going to keep spinning it.
When you say toasting the rice, clarify to the people, we want it a golden brown. What do we want it? We want it translucent. Just let them understand what that means.
So toasting, right? So you want to get it to a point where it's moving really, really, and I'm not going to give you the spoon back until I feel it so you can feel it. You don't want to brown the onions. That's how you know you've gone too far if the onions get brown. You keep moving it, it gets lighter and lighter, the pan gets hotter and hotter, and then we're going to make the sounds happen. So right now, we're going through the longest process, which is toasting the rice. You're actually going to start to hear, again, going back to the sound part of all of this, you're going to start to hear the rice crackle. That's when you know you're on your way. Hasn't really started yet, it's just about to start happening. But this is a dish that once you master it, you may screw it up the first or second time. After this lesson you won't. But it's a dish that once you master it, you really start to go there with
the fun is then once you master it, and again, expect to make a mistake or two in the beginning because it's a learning curve, it's a process, but it's a very simple process that really, it's more about you not being afraid of it. But once you learn that, now you can start adding mushrooms, now you can start adding butternut squash.
Just like life. It's just like life. You make mistakes.
Right, you get up again.
You learn.
Yep.
Right? You toast yourself a little bit, and then you learn the process. Right now, making a risotto is Not a difficult thing. This is the dish, though, that you want to go into your kitchen and enjoy making. Now, you're going to notice that pretty soon, you hear those crackles?
Yep.
That's the beginning of the toasting process starting to happen. So I always like to spin the pot to the right in one direction. Very positive thing to do while you're cooking. So I go there with that. So I want you to now, Caroline, feel the weight of the rice and compare it to when you first started.
I'm going to spin to the left.
All right.
Yeah. It's a different animal.
Okay, so it's lighter.
So that, again, is an important note. You feel a complete... At first, it was a little bit of a chore because you literally felt the heaviness of it. Now it's just like got a little mind of its own and it's moving.
So it's getting lighter, and that's when you know that the grains, each individual grain is starting to speak to the heat, and it's saying, okay, I'm going to let go and I'm going to give you my starch, right? Because that's what risotto is really all about. Is there's something that happens on the bottom of the pan. Culinarily speaking, it's called fond, F-O-N-D. It's a starch that is the base of risotto. We are now establishing that starch, the relationship between the grain and the stock and the wine that we're going to put in.
Here's the fun part, guys. It's snapping, it's crackling, it's popping. I hear it, and I'm over here and I hear it happening. I'm watching the rice become easier to turn. It almost takes on, like you said, a life of its own, and it's really transforming.
Now you're noticing in the pan that I'm not burning anything. As soon as those onions start to get brown, like they are just turning, you're almost done. Now Caroline, get back to the pan here, and then feel it now.
And it's a nice golden, not even like a pretty caramel color, yellow, very, very light.
How's the weight of the spoon?
Night and day.
Okay, so now
Night
you
and
know.
day.
Here's when you know. Now, remember, go back to the sound. What don't you hear? The crackle and the pop, because it's done. You've toasted it. When it stops crackling, you are good. It's time for you to add your wine.
And you could also see the color has changed.
So next sound, ready?
That's my favorite sound. When you're cooking, is that the best sound in the world?
Best sound in the world.
Right? But
So-
I look at it, it's dancing.
Exactly.
It's literally dancing.
The next sound.
Right.
Right? So again, you're going to learn to cook risotto by sound. First sound, second sound, third sound. What's the fourth sound?
Silence.
Okay, it's going to go, and these are where the relationship between the stock and the kernels of rice are now forming a bond. And that bond is actually the fond, which is the starch.
Explain to everybody, when we're pouring liquids into something, when you're putting the stock and when you're putting the wine in, is it, just so they know, more of a personal preference, or is there
A method?
A method to it?
Yeah, so with the amount of wine that you want to pour on top of your risotto, remember the handfuls, right? So if you're thinking about how much wine do I put in, for that 8 handfuls, think about maybe a third of a cup of wine per handful. So I poured into about 8 cups of the arborio rice. I would say that was about 3 cups,
3 cups
of wine.
About 3 cups.
So now this is the part where it gets a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about anything really burning. But this is the part where you have to start
Work it.
working
Work it.
right?
Go.
So what's happening now is all of that wine, which when you're cooking with wine, you want to make sure that you cook it out because you don't want it to feel or taste super winey. This is all now being cooked off. All the alcohol is being cooked off. And really what you're left with is just that really nice flavor of wine. But now is the first step to where you'll start to understand, Caroline. Look at the starch underneath the risotto.
You could see it. You could see it coming
It's building.
up. It's building.
Right? So now what's happening is that the risotto, the grains of rice are starting to absorb all that liquid. And how you know when it is the time to start using stock is when you see that starch on the bottom of the pan look like stripes.
Well, you're making a line. You see that? It's literally, you can make a line, like draw a line in the sand. When you see that happening, you have to add a little more
I
liquid.
like the way you reference sand, because at the end of the dish, it should seem like wet sand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I want you to look at that base and look at that starch down there.
Right.
You'll start to see that what's happening is that it'll form a syrup almost on the bottom.
And that's another thing that I want you to explain to everybody, because everybody makes the assumption, okay, if it's creamy, no, that's what risotto is. Risotto is creamy rice. It's
you're gonna get risotto to become creamy by really moving. Now you know, now here, this is perfect. When it starts to feel like wet sand on the beach, it's saying, please give me a drink.
And you could see it. You see the lines.
Yep.
You see that when that happens, we're thirsty.
Yep. And that's basically it, kids. You want to keep that going. Perfect risotto should be al dente, which means
Little chewy, like when
like to the tooth.
To the tooth.
So al dente means like if you pick up a grain of rice and you just press it against your tooth, that it still has a little bit of a bite. So this is the part of the risotto where you really want to start beating the starch out of the rice. And as you can see right now, on the top of this risotto, it's very creamy already.
Yes, there's a little, not, I don't want to say film, it's a bad word, but also if you notice when I'm stirring it, what's not here? The lines, the stripes,
Yep.
because it's got enough liquid in it.
Exactly. So also now you're looking at those bubbles. The bigger the bubbles become, the thirstier the rice
Closer to
gets.
God?
Closer to God.
Okay.
We're gonna go with that. But right now the bubbles are that's what's talking to you right now. So what I like to do, and it's a little bit of a chore, but when it's too liquidy, you can't do it. When it starts to really get drier, you want to keep the rice moving because that's going to make it creamier than most people's risottos.
I think
are
that's
dry.
an important note to make, that you need to keep the rice moving.
Yeah.
You're not walking away from risotto. Tell them, you are not walking away from risotto. You have to commit yourself to standing there.
You got to put yourself in it, kids.
Right.
Throw yourself in the
Be in
pan.
it to win it.
You got to get in
Stir
it.
it
You
up.
got to get in it.
Shake
If you
it up.
really want,
Make it happen.
Exactly.
You're not paying attention.
Put your foot
Pay
in it.
attention to it.
Put your hand in it.
Stir it.
Don't get burned.
That's all.
But here's the thing, you want to make sure that you're like, risotto, Caroline, is like passionate. You know, when I was in Italy, when I made risotto, I was kind of like
Did you ever sing when you made risotto?
In my mind, I
And
was
you did,
doing.
were you like Pavarotti in your mind? He did make risotto for Pavarotti once, and what did he say to you?
That is the truth, that it was one of the best risottos he ever had in his life.
That's all that happened.
And that's
No
a
big deal.
that's a huge compliment when you are so passionate about a dish.
What would you have done if you knew he was going to a concert after that? Like you were feeding him the risotto that was in his belly while he was singing. Would you have freaked out? Would you have because he has cooked for the biggest music stars in the world. I'm talking Madonna, I'm talking Sting, I'm talking Aerosmith, and Pavarotti. So what do you do when that happens? Are you like, oh my gosh?
I have to just make one correction to that note. I've worked with Madonna, traveled with her, doing other things in design.
Oh, you did style and design.
But I
yes,
never cooked for her. But, and there's a reason why I wouldn't. But the thing is that for me, it's knowing that you put your energy into somebody that's delivering energy to an audience. There's something really cool about that. That you're helping this big star go on stage and they're like nurtured and.
But what is food? Food is love.
Yeah,
food
for
is
sure.
taking care of somebody.
Exactly.
So that's really fun. I remember going to visit you when you were a roadie.
Yeah.
And you had all those cases, and it said Chef Boy Roadie, whatever, right? That's
Chef Boy Roadie.
Right?
Yep.
And the way you would have to make magic out of a shoebox was incredible. So this has got to be cake for you.
Well,
you know?
It's definitely taking me down. Every time I make risotto, it brings me back to that, like, really the most amazing stage of my life when I was a young chef and traveling through Italy. Again, guys, wet sand, right? You can move it around. What does that say?
Thirsty.
More stuff. I'm thirsty. So this risotto is really thirsty.
So what is it you're making with? You're making it with sight and sound.
Yep.
Super easy. It's not threatening.
It is.
Super easy.
It is. And once you get it, once you know, like the process, now you know the rice is thirsty. You could always pick up a grain of rice and know when you're getting close. Right now, it's like about halfway there. We're about 8 or 9 minutes into the actual risotto. If I wasn't, talking to you guys, I would be stirring more, which I'm going to start doing.
Just be stirring, man.
I'm going to stir. So yeah, speaking to what Caroline was talking about earlier, like I traveled with these celebrities, and I would make this dish, and they would be, these guys were going to like 5-star restaurants. She's got the job right now. I can't wait till Caroline makes something and I'm going to have her job, which is drinking the wine.
Hey, we all have our turn.
Listen, isn't that the best thing in the world to be at home listening to great music, opening up a great bottle of wine and cooking great food. What's better than that?
In my world, which is your world, Jamie and I, obviously brother and sister, I am the older, prettier sibling. Just don't mind him. So for us, cooking has so many memories, so many moments that I can call back to with Aunt Red.
Oh yeah.
That brings back, it's my mother's aunt, my father's aunt. And she was this big with flaming red hair, but she was a cook like nobody's business.
Right.
Right? And she would literally waddle into the house, right? And what are you making? Cheesecake. I'm making risotto. I'm making gavadil, homemade gavadil. And we learned from her. We had a farm in upstate New York. By the way, please tell my children that there was a farm.
What farm?
We had a farm, right?
It's called the Funny Farm.
In upstate New York.
We did.
We did. It was a true working farm. My kids think I'm lying. I'm not lying. It's the truth. We had a true working farm.
Oh my God.
Everybody would come for the summer. The house was packed.
Carolyn,
But
what was the craziest food memory from the farm? I know what it is.
Oh, I know. The gabutzel!
Oh God.
We were too young for that. Gabutzel is lamb head.
I wasn't ready for that.
The worst was Aunt Red and Uncle Tony taking their fingers with the eye and going like this, and Uncle Tony goes, "It's good." Yo, dude.
That changed my life.
And they were sawing it. I know this is a little bit too graphic, but they were sawing it.
It wasn't cute.
But then we had the best clam bake in the world. Remember the clam bake?
Yeah,
At the end of every season, my father would have a giant clam bake and invite like the whole town. So that's where we're from with cooking. It's making, pasta for hours on end. It's watching them make risotto and the smells. For me, it's very important on holidays especially that you have the smells that we wake up to them. Tradition. So this is like not just something, let me make this because I learned it in Italy. This is something, let me make it because it brings me back when I was 6 years old and I smell it in the kitchen. And those smells evoke, it's like a warmth. It makes your heart happy.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Pro tip about the risotto, pro tip. Again, I told you 18 minutes. If you wanted to make risotto next week, and you had a dinner party or you're serving your kids, risotto on Saturday night and it's now Wednesday, you could stop the process here. Right now you can take this off the stove, put it on a sheet pan, let it cool down, put it in your refrigerator, and then restart the process and then have risotto in 5 minutes versus 18 minutes.
Right.
Does that make sense? So you can stop the process at any time. So right now we're looking at a really beautiful base. The starches are there. We're almost to the point where you're going to start to see where it's not thirsty anymore and it doesn't want any more stock. But you have to have a hot stock and a hot risotto or else it's just not going to work.
Explain to them so they know. We're talking about it being thirsty. We're talking about, okay, we know it's not thirsty anymore. What's the point where it's too much? Do we let this cook out? Do you want the broth to cook out?
Yeah. So to that point, when you're making risotto, there's only so much starch that lives in each grain of rice. There's only so much starch. What you're going to do is you're going to drown it if you don't. If you're not careful, you can give it too much stock, and that's when it becomes muddy and mushy. You want to keep that al dente.
It's a little tricky, but you'll get the hang of it. Once you make it once or twice, you're going to feel it, you're going to know it, and you're going to understand
All
it.
you really need to know, guys, is that 18-minute mark. If you're going over 18 minutes in this process, you've gone too long. You could actually set a timer if you want for 20 minutes, and if you're not done, you've gone too long. That make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, so here we go. So here's where I start to get it a little bit creamier. You can start to see.
Well, the bubbles now are getting a little bit.
It almost sounds like people are clapping.
Right. But you could see the grains of rice individually, like just coming to the top.
They're giving up. They're
Right.
saying to you, okay, we're drunk.
But look at the bubble. You see how that bubbles, boom, boom, boom? It's like, we're here.
And Caroline, I want you to see if you can grab a grain of that rice. What is
Again,
it?
it's a nicely, you got maybe 4 more seconds to go. It's a nice al dente. It's got a little bit of a bite to it.
Yep.
Which is great. Because you don't want mush. You don't want to eat like you're eating peanut butter. You want the grains. You want to see the grains and you want to feel the little bit give to it.
The goal here is to get this fond that I talk about and this starch that I talk about. When you move it, It's very, very creamy, right?
Fun is fun.
Yes.
Fun is fab. Fun is fierce.
Caroline's all about it. She's all about it. She's really getting it, guys. So now we know that we have a really creamy risotto, and you tasted it. I know that we're about 17 minutes into the game. So I'm saying to myself, all right, we're almost done. And I'm saying to myself, I don't think you need much more stock based on the grain.
It's there.
I'm there.
It's there.
I'm al dente.
Yep.
Now, just for a little bit of, just in case, I throw one more in just to keep it moist because it's going to keep absorbing.
Well, that's a very good point you just made, because oftentimes when you make risotto and it sits, it kind of gets a little sticky.
Yep.
Right? So how are they going to combat that?
So one for good luck at the end, I shut off the heat. If you notice, the heat is completely off. And now I'm going to finish the risotto. And this is where it gets fun.
This is the fun.
If you had some raw shrimp and you wanted to throw the raw shrimp in there, do it.
Go crazy. Sausage,
Peas, cooked sausage,
squash, mushrooms,
some leftover chicken, some
little bit of
spinach, cooked butternut squash,
Yep.
corn. You can go
Anything.
crazy with it. You can do anything you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw in some sun-dried tomatoes. And that's about 2 really nice tablespoons.
Now the sun-dried tomatoes, packed in oil, not packed in oil, what's your preference?
I like them. I don't like them oily. I would prefer to go to the market and find them, find them in a minimal amount of oil. Remember, I want to use this. I have an intention here, Caroline. I'm going to use this for something else later. So I don't want to make it too oily, or I don't want to make it too unfriendly for other dishes. So I'm going to keep it really simple. Look how beautiful.
Look how pretty it just went. A little pop of color, and it's just sun-dried tomatoes. But look how it changed the look of the dish.
Yeah.
Jamie's all about making food look spectacular.
Why not?
I'm all about cooking food to get in my belly. That's the difference.
Yeah, I have to throw a little bit of
zhuzh,
sparkle on it. Yeah.
It's always adding a little sparkle
Well,
to everything.
that's what we do. So then I'm going to add in some fresh chopped parsley. And always when you finish risotto, you want to add in butter and cheese.
Right.
And again, guys, to your preference. Remember, the more butter that you add and the more cheese you add is going to change the consistency of the dish.
Also, don't be afraid. You could go a whole new route with this. Right now we have Parmigiano cheese. You could put goat cheese in there.
Of course, yeah.
Whatever makes you happy.
Really,
That's
any kind of
what cooking's
cheese.
about. Whatever makes you happy.
But we're going to
tastes
keep
are.
it classic,
Right.
right? We're going to keep it classic, and then we're going to keep making sure that we're moving the risotto because we're not done, and we want to make it so that it's creamy. And guys, I got to tell you, we nailed it, Caroline. This is a beautiful risotto we made. So now we're going to throw in a little bit of butter. That's about 3 tablespoons. What the butter is going to do is the butter is going to give it a little bit of sheen, right? And the butter is going to give it a little bit more creamy. So we've got an amazingly beautiful risotto here.
Would you like me to get you a nice plate to put that in?
Why don't you do that?
I'll do that for you.
Why don't you do that?
Because I'm that good.
Oh, you
I'll be
are.
right back.
You know, that's very
Don't worry.
kind of you, by the way. Very
That's what I'm
kind.
here for.
I really appreciate that.
No worries. Pay attention to the rice.
Okay, so now we've got an amazing risotto. I'm very proud of it. I know when it's perfect because it has that consistency. It's really like wet sand. And I'm also going to take it another level, right? I'm going to throw in a little bit of pepper. And I'm also going to take, where is she? Something's happening. She's behind me. What are we doing? Classic. I'm also going to take a little bit of lemon zest because it was over there. Sometimes your best ingredient is in your midst.
Right there.
It changes everything.
Don't be afraid of your refrigerator, guys.
Guys,
Don't be afraid of
take
your
the fear-
refrigerator and your cupboards because
take the
there's
fear-
gold in there.
take the fear out
Them
of it.
gold in there.
Okay, so now here's another thing we're going to talk about because there's in the chef industry, it's sometimes it's a dirty word to say truffle. Now, if you got some really nice truffle, you guys are out there and you have a really nice truffle from Alba.
Guys, I'll go to Italy to get some really nice truffle.
Now, some chefs
I'll go on a truffle hunt.
don't believe in
You don't have to
truffle
tell
oil.
me twice. Why not? Why not?
Some chefs don't believe in truffle oil. They don't think that it's, for me, why I like truffle oil is that it's the taste.
Right.
Tastes good. So,
and that's another thing. There are no rules. The rule is do what makes you happy.
and guys,
do what makes your
if you
belly
want to throw in
happy.
some chili flake on that, go nuts. All right, Caroline. So, with all that said, I'm going to plate you some risotto.
I'm gonna eat me some risotto. We get a fork.
And I have to tell you that it's kind of perfection, I'm not gonna lie.
Again, so easy. Sight and sound, no measuring.
Remember, when you make the perfect risotto and you plate it, if you take the plate, which by the way, congrats on the plate.
Shimmy, shimmy,
everything
shimmy.
matters. You know what? We love our plates.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy,
We love our
shimmy,
bowls.
Shimmy, shimmy.
Ready?
Go.
You see that?
Shimmy, shimmy,
What does
shake
it do? It
shake
falls into place, just like that.
Just a little shimmy and a shake.
That's when you know.
But look how pretty.
Now, you
Look
want
how
to go.
pretty.
You want to go a little. Wait, you want to be extra? You want to garnish a little bit? Here
Jamie's super extra. Super extra.
I can't help it.
He is.
I can't help it. So now I'm going to serve it to you guys at the table. I'm going to throw in a little more lemon zest to finish on top. Look at that, right?
And it's a little, but it adds dimension, it adds color, and it adds zhuzh.
I know, you want to put a little bit of poached garlic right on the top like that. You want to throw a beautiful sprig of rosemary on top. You want to do a lemon peel on top. You want to throw a little extra cheese on top.
And look how simple. It took him 2 seconds, and most of us are intimidated to do something like that. Oh, God, I can't make it pretty.
Or impatient. Or impatient.
Impatient.
All right, so Caroline, give it a shot. Can't wait.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. So that's risotto, guys. And if you can't make that based on what we told you on sound, then go to a great restaurant and get served some great risotto.
Sight and sound, no measuring. I
Right?
applaud you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We have to cheers again to the risotto.
Good night. God bless.
God bless.
And happy eating.
Cheers to that.